Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hello again, finally. Hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild with me, your buddy, Palladino Joey, or of course, Joey Awajan? It is November the 24th, 2010. It has been almost half a year since episode number 44 of Brave the Wild. This is episode number 45 of the aforementioned Brave the Wild. It is finally here. I didn't go away completely. Nope, Brave the Wild still lives. It is back. It has been on life support for months, but it is back once again. I apologize for being away so long. It's a busy schedule, but that's pretty much about it. Let's talk about the Wild. Well, they are off to a very solid start this year. Not great, but better than last year. First and foremost, though, Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. I thank each and every one of you for joining the show and downloading and listening to it, of course. And for those of you that have been wondering where the heck I've been, well, I'm sorry that I've been away. I hope you're still out there and listening. So here we are back to talk about the Wild. Of course, not going to really go into detail about individual games. Going to pretty much brush things with a broad stroke as best I can without annoying you listeners and with giving you solid information, solid opinions, and opening the door for you to give your opinions as well. A great way to give your opinions are, of course, calling into the phone line, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention you're calling in for Brave the Wild and state your opinion, shout out, whatever. And there you go. You'll be on the air with me. Well, the Minnesota Wild thus far this year, well, they're in a stronger position, but then again, we're back down to the 10th seed, yet a mere 6 points out of first place for the entire Western Conference. An extremely jam-packed Western Conference. A lot like last year, the Wild tonight played probably their worst game of the year, losing 6-1 to the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't think any of us really saw that coming. The Wild played the Flyers very well over the last several years, but not tonight. In fact, the Wild even beat Detroit at one point only about a week ago. It's been an up-and-down season. Of course, the acquisitions of Matt Cullen has just been huge for this club. It has been a strong acquisition has been Matt Cullen. Got off to a stronger start this year than really he's been on now. In fact, he was leading the team in scoring for the first about month of the year. Now he's down to 50. He's still at 15 points. Chips in an assist here and there, but really not been the most exciting player in terms of the scoring. But overall, the best face-off guy on the team, you got to say. The second-line center the Minnesota Wild have never had. The first-line center, only one more assist than Matt Cullen. All three, Martin Havlat, Mika Koivu, and Matt Cullen have played all 19 games this year. That is a good thing. Martin Havlat leading the team in scoring officially with 3 goals, 14 assists, 17 points on the year. Another up-and-down guy, really, overall. Martin Havlat, another up-and-down year in general, though I guess it's nice to see him leading the team in scoring. However, a team that doesn't score all that much has, I guess it's not the greatest accomplishment in the history of the world, but we'll take it. Andrew Brunette down a little bit from last year, certainly in the production category. Still a wonderful player, wonderful fit on this team. I made him the most valuable player for your Minnesota Wild in the 2009-2010 season. I wouldn't put him in that this year. In fact, the whole Koivu, Brunette, Mietnian line, not really as effective as last year, but certainly not the worst of all time. I got to think the second line has really been the most productive overall. Matt Cullen, Martin Havlat, though unfortunately Martin Havlat has been missing the goal scorer that has really carried the Wild last year in terms of actually the actual goal scoring, not really making plays for other people, but scoring goals in general. About 27 last year for Guillaume Latendresse, who unfortunately has really been bit by the injury bug this year. And in fact, as of today, 2 surgeries, one for a sports hernia, the other for the labrum on the hip. He is out for a minimum 3 months, unfortunately, and that's where some frustration does come in a big way. That is quite unfortunate. So the Wild dip into their past, and that's a story we're going to get into in a little bit. The Minnesota Wild acquire Patrick O'Sullivan. Remember Patrick O'Sullivan? Yeah, the guy who was looked on as one of the top scoring prospects on the entire Minnesota Wild system. We're going to also get into the Wild system later. Houston Aeros, our classic old Houston Aeros checkup like we like to do here on Brave the Wild on a fairly frequent basis. But no, Patrick O'Sullivan brought in. Remember part of that Pavel Demitra trade that I always would complain about, and Patrick O'Sullivan, a 50-point game with L.A. Well, the production level dropped off pretty quickly after that, and thus he was made available as he was put on waivers from the Carolina Hurricanes. Hopefully he's anywhere nearly as valuable as Matt Cullen has been, the other former Carolina Hurricane. We'll see how that turns out. It's been nice indeed. Really the guy who has been a big spark, though, this year, a huge encouragement, a very, very good sign with how things are going. Out of all the kind of, the malaise at the top with the Havlats and the Koivus. I mean, Koivu is really good, but he's not ever going to dazzle you. He's never going to be a 35-goal, 40-goal, 50-goal guy, of course. But he'll get his 70-point seasons. He's a solid defensive player. He's good on the face-off, and he's a wonderful piece. He's the face of the franchise, really. I mean, he's a classic Minnesota Wild player, a very good defensive forward. That's pretty much what the Wild have been about since day one in the Jacques Lemaire era. But Brent Burns has been a very big breath of fresh air for the Minnesota Wild. Last year, Brent Burns, and the year before that, was bit by the concussion bug. Again, the injury part isn't his fault, but the performance, in a sense, was, in a way, it was not the same player the past few years, but it looks like, in a lot of ways, the performance has really stepped up. I got to think his health is way up as well. Brent Burns has just been a wonderful, wonderful breath of fresh air for the Minnesota Wild and a good sign for the future of this club with 11 points in 17 games. In fact, actually, as of tonight, 12 points in 18 games. Brent Burns, the 4th leading scorer on this team, and with 6 goals as well. That's funny. The funny part is your 2 top goal scorers on this team are a defenseman, that being Brent Burns, and a checker, that being Cal Clutterbuck. Cal Clutterbuck has no assists either, by the way. He has 7 goals and no assists. Good for 7 points. Yeah, Cal Clutterbuck is known for hitting people, not really being the top goal scorer on your team, but Cal Clutterbuck leads the Minnesota Wild in goal scoring. That's interesting. Again, that's another sign. Well, obviously, we're missing Guillaume Latendresse. We're missing a Marian Gaborik. That's for darn sure. In fact, he came back to town just earlier this week. A disappointing loss for the Wild in that one, to the New York Rangers. Marian Gaborik actually played this time. Not just... Boy, oh boy, do we miss Marian Gaborik. I mean, Guillaume Latendresse not being available, I mean, there is no pure goal scorer on this roster. Cal Clutterbuck is leading you in goal scoring? What? That's amazing. That's just absolutely amazing. And what more can you say to that? That's very, very frustrating in that sense. Though, I mean, we appreciate the production by Cal Clutterbuck, but the fact that he's the only leading goal scorer, or that he's the main leading goal scorer on the team, is a little bit eye-popping, just a little bit. we'll just leave it there. Kyle Brodziak, 4 points in 19 games. He's played in every game. He's been a nice face-off guy, certainly not a goal scorer. He had a 2-goal game at one point this year, but that's the only goals he scored the entire season. So there you go there. So as I continue to bounce around a little bit, I mean, that's just how it's going to be. A lot of players have bounced around as well. The Justin Falks have been called up and sent down. The Marco Scandellas have been called up and sent down. Casey Wellman as well. Colton Gillies, Robbie Earl. I mean, it's been a lot of call up and send downs type of deal. But the good news is at least this Minnesota Wild club has a winning record. That's the good part. Eric Nystrom, certainly not an offensive addition to this club. He's a nice gritty player, but only 2 points in 19 games. You'd hope for a tiny bit more production than that. Makes you wonder there as well, just a little bit. Sooner or later, the production hopefully has got to come from some of these guys. Cam Barker, only 3 assists in 15 games. This guy is supposed to be this really talented offensive power play quarterback type defenseman, and that's all he has to show for it thus far. That's just slightly frustrating. The good news is, I guess, at least 2 of his assists were on the power play, but overall, my goodness, I mean, the guy's certainly not showing up very much in the old stat sheet, the old box score. John Madden, a very old, very solid fourth-line type of player with 6 points in 19 games, 4 goals for him. He's actually been a teeny bit better than some of us may have expected at his age. I mean, he's basically the replacement for Owen Nolan. Is Owen Nolan, of course, not returning to the Minnesota Wild for reasons that I do not know. I'm not sure what happened there. Chuck Kobus, who's been nothing but an injury-prone individual for this club. Brad Staubitz has been okay, but certainly not Derek Bugard level, that's for sure. He's about tied with Brent Burns in penalty minutes, which is kind of funny. Other than that, really, Matt Cullen's been a wonderful addition, and Brent Burns has been a nice. It's not a surprise, but he's been a nice improvement. He's been a breath of fresh air that he's back playing to a very, very elite level at that defenseman spot and scoring the goals as well. And heck, he's blocked 27 shots. That is second on the team, or third on the team behind Greg Zanin and Nick Schultz. Nick Schultz with 45 blocks on the year. That is outstanding. Cal Clutterbuck by far leading everybody in hits with 82. And Eric Nystrom with 56. It's been the team has played better, but now we're starting to kind of run into a little bit of a wall here with the Minnesota Wild. They were playing some really good hockey early in the month of November. In fact, they won the first 3 games in November against San Jose with a 1-0 deal, 2-1 against Calgary, 3-2 against Columbus. But really, the goals aren't showing up. I mean, yeah, you get 1 against San Jose, 2 against Calgary, 3 against Columbus. I mean, the offensive production really, it's okay, but really the key to the Minnesota Wild success so far this season has been the goaltending. I mean, plain and simple, as the Wild, I haven't even mentioned this yet on the show. Obviously, you know that, but I haven't brought it up personally on the show. Jose Theodore added to be the backup for the Wild because of Josh Harding out for the year with a torn ACL and MCL. Just a very devastating injury for Josh Harding. Not good indeed. That guy was really bit by the injury bug last year with the whole hip whole hip deal. That was unfortunate. He had a couple of solid games down the stretch. Josh Harding, not sure what his future holds with this team. He was signed for 1 more year. Seems to be kind of on the 1-year contract deal, year in, year out. Just year by year with old Josh Harding. Backstrom has been signed for a while, of course, as we know. Jose Theodore has actually been pretty solid for the Wild so far in his couple stints. He's had 4 starts this year, 2-2 record, 2.97 goals against average, but certainly not at Backstrom's elite 2.11 goals against average, not including tonight's 6-1 drubbing against the Philadelphia Flyers. But we'll leave that as it is. Backstrom has been amazing, though. He was 8-5 until tonight's game, again mentioned. Both of those, their save percentage, 93% for Backstrom, 92% for Theodore. Not bad at all. I mean, that's a nice combination right there. In fact, we all know what Jose Theodore did to the Minnesota Wild when the Wild took on the Colorado Avalanche in the last playoff series, that we were able to make it to the playoffs. The Wild are now 10-8 on the year. Man, it's too bad. The Wild were consistently in the top 8, in the playoff picture, all 6, 7, 8 range. Now we're back into that 10-ish area that we really rotted in most of last year. Very frustrating there. The Wild scoring one less goal than they have scored this year, 46 and 47. The least goals scored in the conference, but the least goals allowed, or in the conference, in the division, least goals allowed in the Northwest Division. If the Wild could score just a couple goals, they might actually be a pretty good team. 4-3 record on the road is very encouraging compared to last year when the Wild were horrendous on the road. They really took care of business at home last year. This year, they're okay. They have a winning record at 6-4. This club. The good news is, you can tell they're a step better than last year. It's just how big of a step. Really hard to say right now. And again, the goals, the lack of offensive production continuing to plague this team. And it will continue to plague this team until we get a true goal scorer on the roster. Will it be Patrick O'Sullivan? Well, time will only tell. Time can only tell there. The most impressive win for the Wild thus far was the victory over the Detroit Red Wings last Friday the 19th. That was something else. That actually concluded a 3-game winning streak for the Wild. They have now had a couple of just doozies here. The Wild traveled south earlier in the month against Atlanta and Florida. The Wild had scored 1 goal in each game, a 5-1 loss to Atlanta, 2-1 loss to Florida. Just an ugly back-to-back Thursday, Friday night games in those respective cities. Not good, against Miami when it comes to Florida, not the Florida State. Disappointing offensive production, and the floodgates opened a little bit against Atlanta. The goaltending certainly hitting a little bit of a wall here. The defense and the turnovers especially killing the Wild tonight in the Philadelphia game. As they continue to bounce around. A very exciting victory against Tampa Bay, a 4-1 win Sunday the 14th. They come home against the Anaheim Ducks and win a very close, tight-fought game, 2-1 in a shootout against the Anaheim Ducks. And then a very exciting overtime victory over the Detroit Red Wings in Detroit. Very exciting indeed, 4-3 for the Wild. Again, as mentioned, in overtime. Antti Miettinen netting that one. That was very exciting indeed. Then the Wild come home to play against the New York Rangers and get destroyed by Marian Gabourik's club. Derek Bugard as well. Gabourik's first appearance in XL Energy Center as a visitor because, of course, last year he was injured. Yes, he was. Oh, imagine that, right? A 5-2 loss for the Wild. The Wild have had a lot of success against the New York Rangers over the years, and they did not have it on this particular game at all. Oh, man. Matt Cullen finally scoring his 4th goal of the year because he's mentioned a hot start, but it cooled off a bit, unfortunately. Marian Gaborik, though, not a factor in the goal scoring, though he did assist on one of the goals early. He assisted on the 3rd goal for the New York Rangers, and they took a 3-0 lead with a minute left in the second period. The Rangers opened the floodgates in that second period. In about a 9-minute stretch, they took a 3-0 lead after a 0-0 start about halfway through the game. That was awfully frustrating in a big way. Just the goaltending for Nicklas Backstrom really downhill at this point, the past few games here. Definitely a frustration, and that's where the Wild are suddenly in trouble because the goaltending was the backbone of this club all season. Last year, the goaltending was not nearly as good. In fact, Backstrom had his worst year with the Wild last year by far, and thus far we had a disappointing season. Yes, we did in a big way. The Wild have 3 days off against the New York Rangers, enough time to stew, stay at home this whole time, come home against the Philadelphia Flyers. You think we're going to kick their butts because we always beat the Flyers, right? We've had a lot of success against them. And again, a 6-1 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, and you just wonder what the heck happened here. A lot of fluky goals. The first 3 goals of the game were completely fluky. Not really on Backstrom at all. Turnovers. The first goal of the game actually was slid under Backstrom. It just slid under him. He didn't know where the puck was. And when he moved, the puck went over the line. That was awfully frustrating. The third goal of the game, the puck just literally bounced over him. That was ridiculous, or bounced under him, I should say. just happened to bounce right where the Philadelphia Flyers were able to put it in. That was awfully frustrating indeed. And pretty much the whole game, though, after that was pretty much turnovers, shorthanded goals allowed. The Philadelphia Flyers have 6 shorthanded goals on the year now. That leads the entire National Hockey League. And this game was just certainly not what the doctor ordered at all in any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, Andreas Nodal, I should say. That was definitely a disappointment. That's a familiar name to all of us here in in this area. That followed the WCHA. Of course, he played for the St. Cloud State Huskies. My least favorite team in the WCHA, that's for darn sure. Patrick O'Sullivan, though, remember how I said it was 6-1, right? Well, Patrick O'Sullivan was the man that scored, and that was pretty cool. Made it a 2-1 game at the time. Brent Burns and John Madden assisting on that one. It was actually a pretty nifty play. Patrick O'Sullivan had numerous opportunities early. He could not hold on to the puck. Several times the puck was just poked, the poke checks. Poked right off his stick several times early on. It's like, dude, if you can hang on to the puck, you might have a chance to do something here. And the funny part about Patrick O'Sullivan is, he might be the best goal scorer on the roster. And I kid you not, folks. I kid you not. Patrick O'Sullivan may be the best goal scorer on the roster.
Holy crap, Batman!
That's pretty sad. That's pretty weird. A guy you claimed off waivers is your best goal scorer. Well, Patrick O'Sullivan is a talented guy. I mean, he was taken very high in the second round. A lot of people thought that the year the Wild took Brent Burns, that Patrick O'Sullivan should have been the first pick and Brent Burns should have been the second round pick. And it would have probably worked out either way. Then Burns may have slipped that far. It's a very big possibility, as Burns was actually taken as a forward at the time. Burns isn't that kind of a scorer. You take him in the first round as a forward. As a defenseman, oh my God, you take him in the top 10. Woo! But, luckily that things worked out that way as time wore on. Patrick O'Sullivan, it's crazy to have him back in this team. And, of course, the man that was in the same draft back in good old 03, Patrick O'Sullivan and Brent Burns team up on that goal. It's like, how fitting is that? Patrick O'Sullivan's first game as a member of the Minnesota Wild finally gets to play for this team, rather than in Houston Aeros and juniors and all that. And he scores a goal, despite the fact he was a little bit all over the place, as I mentioned. Could not finish on another play. He had a one-on-one with rookie Bob Ravosky. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Very good goalie. Very good rookie goalie for the Philadelphia Flyers. Of course, both the Flyers and the Blackhawks jettisoned their goalies after going to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, which is crazy, but that's how it goes. That's the business of this game, folks. It sure is. Yikes. But if Patrick O'Sullivan can kind of keep his composure, get back in control, this guy is a very good player. Remember, he had 53 points at the LA Kings a few years ago, a 20-goal season as well in that year. The guy clearly does have the talent, and I'm very happy to see Chuck Fletcher claiming him off waivers. And, hey, we need him. Latendresse is out till God knows when, until at least 3 months. And Pierre-Marc Bouchard may never skate for the Wild again. And on a team that needs a goal scorer one way or another, as long as he doesn't turn the puck over too much, Patrick O'Sullivan is a welcome addition to this team. He played 16 minutes. He was picked up just yesterday. Played 16 minutes in tonight's game and was a +1 in a night when virtually everybody was -2 or -3 in this game, with a few exceptions. Cal Clutterbeck being one of them, and Nick Schultz, because those two guys are just defensive studs. Gotta love them. Happy that Clayton Stoner is skating with this club as well, and obviously the NHL level. Very nice indeed. It was a very good game. No, it was very nice to see that Patrick O'Sullivan went out there and played. That was the one positive you came out of this game. The rest of it was not a good game at all. In fact, no, it really wasn't. So with that, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to get into Patrick O'Sullivan, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the Houston Aeros right after this. and we are back here on Brave the Wild, episode number 45, which is a reminder for iPod users and Microsoft Zune and all that good stuff, other MP3 players. Thanks again for joining the show once again. Well, Patrick O'Sullivan, I mean, hey, I guess he's the story of the night right now, especially this particular night. He's the only guy that could score, as I already said. His comments about returning to the Minnesota Wild, it'll be a fresh start for me. At this point, it's a good thing. That's for sure. Chuck Fletcher chimes in. He says he has scored goals everywhere. He has played, said Fletcher, who said Sullivan will play Wednesday against Philadelphia. That's, of course, tonight. Yep, we got to play right off the gate. He's a player who is still young, can skate, handle the puck, and shoot the puck. Right now, it seems like a real logical fit for our team. Patrick scored 20 goals in the NHL before, nearly 50 in the American League. That's the AHL, of course. I don't see any risk in picking him up. To me, there is a risk in not picking him up. You let a skill guy like that go by you. It's difficult to find that type of skill in your system. We felt he's way ahead of anybody we have in Houston right now. Oh my, is that an understatement? Is that, boy, when I get to Houston. Yep, it's a low-risk move for a Wild team, currently second to last in the league in scoring 2.42 goals per game. Oh my God. O'Sullivan is in the final year of a contract that pays him $600,000 in the NHL and $105,000 in the minors. The Wild sees O'Sullivan, who shoots from the left, as being able to play either wing position. Where will he play? Coach Todd Richards wouldn't say for sure until meeting with O'Sullivan, who was scheduled to arrive Tuesday night, but Richards said O'Sullivan likely will play with Martin Havlat on the second power play team. Richards said he sees O'Sullivan fitting in with one of the top two lines. There would appear to be a good chance he would skate on a line with Matt Cullen. For O'Sullivan, it's a much-needed chance. With Carolina, it wasn't working out. I'm excited to go somewhere where we'll have an opportunity. Anytime you go somewhere new, there is something to prove, new people to impress. But I think I've played enough games where everybody knows the type of player I am, what I'm capable of. It's up to me to get back to that higher level. As meanwhile, Latendresse season is put on hold after appearing in only 8 games. Fletcher said he didn't know when the hip injury occurred. Yep, might have been earlier. Very, very frustrating indeed. O'Sullivan continues. I know what I can do. Just getting that opportunity to give, I'm excited to get out there. It's pretty cool going back to the team that drafted you. It's kind of a neat story. I hope it works out. And that's the funny part. Right now, call me crazy, but I don't see any reason, at least for the time being, why it shouldn't work out. That's funny. I mean, you claim a guy off waivers and he's already going to play on your top 2 lines. That tells you something. That tells you that he's probably better than some people may have rated him as. Of course, in Carolina, they put him on the 4th line because they have some nice young prospects there, and they'd rather give them playing time than or time on ice per se than Patrick O'Sullivan. So it's just, I guess that's the way it stands with them. Edmonton lost him via free agency. Phoenix traded him to Edmonton. LA traded him to Phoenix. It just got kind of crazy. Yeah, he's been a little bit of a journeyman, but really, I think the guy deserves the chance to play. And on this roster, when Cal Clutterbuck is your leading goal scorer and your second leading goal scorer is a defenseman, yeah, he's Brent Burns, but it's a defenseman. I mean, come on. And there's your next best scorer has got 4 goals. What is it? Antti Miettinen and Matt Cullen, guys like that, and Koivu. You know, you need some goal scoring. And guess what, folks? Patrick O'Sullivan has already 1/7 on his way there to leading the team in goal scoring, at least. Entertaining thought, but fact. Yeah, a fact. That's the funny part. So as we go to Houston, boy, what an understatement by Chuck Fletcher by saying, well, he's got more skill than anybody in the system right now. Well, yeah. Gerald Palmer is just a career minor leaguer with 4 goals, 13 points in 18 games. Dia Salvatore, another career minor leaguer. Massim Norio. Those are your 3 leading scorers in the minor leagues. All of them significantly not very productive numbers. 21 games, only 13 points. 12 points in 21 games. Carson McMillan, I've never heard of him either. Another career minor leaguer. Robbie Earl, he's a career minor leaguer. We have heard of him. he's a nice quirky fourth line player in the NHL, but that's all he really is. He'll get some goals here and there. Marco Scandella is the real deal. 9 points at 15 games in Houston. Unfortunately, he's back in Houston as the Wild continue to send him down and call him back up. Peter Kalis continuing to rot in the minors, and I think that's where he's going to be for all eternity. That or Europe, because he's only got 8 points in 21 games, though 6 of those points are goals. That's the encouraging part. Cody Allman not really taking that step up that a lot of us thought he was going to. Colton Gillies, sure the heck not, with only 6 points in 15 games. Cody Allman with 7 points in 19. Just not much. The cupboard is still bare over in Houston. I mean, I gotta say, Cody Allman, I really thought there was going to be more coming from him, and we're not seeing it. The Wild just does not have anybody right now that just say, oh my, this guy's going to, boy, I can't wait till he gets up to the NHL level, other than Marco Scandella, we'll say. But yeah, other than Marco Scandella, there really isn't anybody, skating-wise that is, that you don't really see him coming up to the NHL level and, oh my God, this guy is just going to tear it up. A lot of us, the last time we really felt that way was when Mikko Koivu was over in Europe. We just could not wait for Mikko Koivu to start skating for this club, because he is going to be a wonderful player. And yes, he is. He's not a dominant player, but he's a piece, a very gigantic piece to any team in the NHL. Yes, he is. He's a top 3 player on any team in the NHL pretty much for the most part, because of his two-way abilities and his leadership skills. But not in the goal scoring. Not the goal scoring. I mean, not every top 3 player on your team is going to be a goal scorer. That's just the way it is. Usually 1 or 2 guys are major goal scorers. The Wild do not have one goal scorer. They have 0, unfortunately. And in the minor leagues, there is no sign of that to this day. We hope that draft pick that the Wild took in the first round will be that guy. Another big kind of style type, or more of a skill type of guy, I should say. We'll see. Colton Gillies is just an oversized nothing right now. Nothing. I don't know what Colton Gillies is going to do in the NHL. We have seen no signs of much life when it comes to him. Anton Khudobin has nice numbers in the minor leagues, but at the NHL level, they don't really see him making it because he's too small. Matt Hackett just got to the Minnesota Wild, of course, via the draft, though he's already in Houston, or the Wild, the pro level. He's already in Houston, though, and that's the encouraging part. He's 4-4 on the year, 2.82 goals against average, about 91% for the save percentage. Nothing spectacular, but still not bad that he's in the AHL level right away from the draft. That's the encouraging sign. So we will see how that goes. Maybe the backup goalie of the future, maybe eventually the starter, depending on how Nicholas Backstrom goes and, of course, how well Matt Hackett develops. The goalies take eons to develop. I mean, it took about 5 years for Josh Harding to see the NHL level, and he's not a professional, or he's not a starter, for the most part. He'd be a spot starter like a Manny Fernandez at the peak of his career, in my humble opinion. So that pretty much should conclude episode number 45 of Brave the Wild. I do thank you for joining me. Well, I'm going to try to keep up with this as best I can. No guarantees, though I got to think there's a good chance maybe every week, every 2 weeks or so, we'll have a show up. Probably not every single week, but I'm going to try my best to do that, depending on how the schedule goes. We'll see how it goes. I hope all of you did enjoy what I was able to bring to you tonight. I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. I believe your Thanksgiving is probably already done by the time this got out. But hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll get back to you hopefully sooner than later.